Deep in the mountains of California, far from the crowds in Yosemite or Tahoe, there's a place some consider to be the most beautiful destination in the Sierra Nevada. My name is Erin. I work in HR. I'm a mom to 2 awesome kids, and I'm married to a backpacker.
I've been nagging my wife for years to come with me on a trip to the High Sierra, and she finally caved. I chose Rae Lakes because it's one of my favorite places. It's got a lot of character. It's a very surreal place, a lot of big granite walls and cool peaks surrounding it. It's just kind of a big deal to me.
What I'm excited about for this trip is hiking in a new area. The length of the backpacking trip, I've never been out for that long, and I'm really excited to see Rae Lakes.
Rae Lakes is a fairly remote place. It does take a couple days to get there on foot, and it's nestled within the Kings Canyon National Park, which is a really cool park. It's huge. It's massive. It's about 2,000 feet deeper than the Grand Canyon. You're laughing.
You said the canyon.
Most people hike to Rae Lakes as a loop out of the Western Sierra. However, this year's a little bit different because it is a high snow year. A critical footbridge was actually destroyed by heavy snow, and that route is now impossible. So instead, we opted for a route out of the Eastern Sierra, which does involve climbing 2 high-altitude passes, and like I said, it's a high snow year, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge. I mean, it's going to be really easy. It's going to be like no big deal at all. It's going to be like a stroll through the woods.
Due to the record snow year, we'll want to exercise extreme caution when going over the passes. Chris has a lot of mountain experience, but I hardly have any, so we'll want to take it slow, be really careful, and come prepared. We started out our first day at the Onion Valley Trailhead, and we headed up the eastern side of Kearsarge Pass. The scenery changed a lot while we were hiking up. First it was more foresty and there were trees and flowers, and then we got to this really cool rock patch where it's just rocks and boulders. There were a bunch of lakes on the way up, and as we climbed in elevation, we hit a couple of patches of snow.
As we were approaching the pass, there was a distant lightning strike, and there was some concern on my end that lightning might become an issue. It's not a low pass, it's 11,700 something feet. It's pretty big, and it's usually a bad idea to be that high when there's lightning. So luckily it was pretty far away, not a big deal at all.
Kearsarge was my first real mountain pass, and it was challenging, but it was rad. It was nice. It was fun to get up to the top. It felt like a sense of accomplishment. When we came over the pass and were dropping down into Kearsarge Lakes, there was definitely noticeable snow on this side as well, and it had melted out along the trail, and so most of the path had turned into a creek.
So upon arrival into Kearsarge Lakes, we were immediately greeted by a bear. A cute little guy. He wasn't much of a problem. We kept our distance. We were safe about it. He was a great reminder that we need to always make sure to keep our food in bear canisters, because it's very rare for bears to actually attack people, but they will absolutely go for your food. So anything scented, anything like that, we had to keep in this little bear canister. We set up camp. Mosquitoes weren't that bad at all.
There was a backdrop of the lake, and there were snowy peaks all around, and it was just beautiful.
When we got into camp, we called our kids, and that was awesome. Satellite phones are great. They're obviously a good idea for safety purposes, but the main reason I like them is because we can call our kids, see how they're doing, make sure they're okay, and they're doing great. So that was good to hear that they're happy. Muzzy, it's Kearsarge Lakes. It's nighttime. What do you think?
It's pretty cool.
Is it awesome?
It's pretty peaceful. You can hear the waterfall in the background. It's a little chilly, but not too bad.
Who is the best hubby in the world?
Is this a trick question? The hike was slow but beautiful. After an incredible view from the top of Kearsarge Pass, we headed down to a picture-perfect campsite.
I'm still a little tired. I didn't sleep super well last night, so just maybe a little on the grouchy side this morning.
Grumpy Muzzy.
I'll be better after I drink some coffee. We're gonna climb Glen Pass today and head into Rae Lakes.
There's been some mornings of snow and some somewhat sketch conditions, so we have crampons and we have ice axes to keep us safe, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. It looks like things have melted out a lot, so I expect that Glen won't be too bad. Famous last words. If it's really bad, Muzzy will kill me. That's a cute marmot, but they're awesome pets.
So one of the challenges that we've had out here with all of the snow patches and the mudslides and the random streams that have formed is that everything looks like a trail and nothing looks like a trail. We're eating lunch at Bullfrog Lake, and it's really pretty.
We passed Bullfrog Lake and then we continued on to the John Muir Trail. That was really awesome because I did the JMT last year, so it was kind of nice. I got to remember that and see it again. I felt like it's kind of like my home in some ways. From there, we started heading north on the John Muir Trail, and it was funny. It was such a high snow year that there was a trail sign that was actually in the middle of a lake that's normally not there, so that was pretty interesting.
Then we started the ascent up to the backside of Glen Pass, and things started to change.
I tried to mentally prepare her for Glen Pass. We had brought ice axes, crampons, all that stuff. So we were prepped for it, we knew what to do, but it was still pretty intimidating for her. And as we started heading up, I think she was ready to kill me at points. She was definitely giving me that look like she was gonna stab me or something.
There were stretches of trail that were just snow and hillside. And we were following the stomped out path of previous hikers, but there was no trail.
So we got to use the ice axe and crampons and get to the top and have this amazing view of the Rae Lakes Basin. It was a lot of fun for me. That was probably the worst part for my wife.
I've never experienced terrain like that before, so it was a bit of a shock for me. And I really had to just push through the fear and keep going, even though it was very new and different and challenging, and I tend to have a fear of heights, and so there were a number of elements that I was dealing with.
We eventually got to the top, and I was expecting this big aha moment where she would be like, wow, this is amazing, I love it.
That wasn't my reaction. So we got to the top of Glen Pass, and I lost it. I was crying, I was ugly crying. I felt completely freaked out because not only had I done the hardest thing I'd ever done, getting up to the top of Glen Pass, I looked over toward Rae Lakes and noticed that we had a whole lot more snow to go. It was not going to be an easy descent. And oh, by the way, the sun was setting. Despite being prepared, the snow and heights were mentally exhausting. Rewarded by waist-deep water crossing, we arrived at camp after sunset. It was definitely a challenging day.
It was a very adventurous day for sure.
Yeah. This is not for the faint of heart. Faint of heart right here. Faint of heart.
But you did it. I'm proud of you, Muzzy. You did a good job. So the next day we woke up. It was a beautiful morning, clear skies, and the plan was to head over to 60 Lakes Basin. However, my wife was pretty freaked out from the day before and was pretty done with snow travel, so we decided to stay on solid ground for a while.
I needed a day off. I needed a break, and so we decided to stay at Rae Lakes for an extra night and hang out around the area. One of the great things about camping when there's still snow, makeshift ice chest.
Yay!
Hey honey, can you grab me a cold one?
Here you go. We ended up hiking down past Lower Rae Lake and then eventually headed down to Arrowhead Lake where we had lunch.
It was hot and sunny, and we were commenting about how warm it was, and the next thing you know,
We saw some clouds in the distance. They came closer and closer, and then bam, hail.
and it started to hail on us, so we geared up and we're headed back.
Ow, it actually hurts. It's day 3, we're in camp, and a cool thunderstorm is coming in. It's gonna be awesome.
We're in our tent, and there's thunder and lightning outside, and our clothes are wet from our day hike, so our shoes and socks got soaked, but I guess that's okay because tomorrow one of the first things we're gonna do is wade back through that waist deep water to get across to the trail. And yeah, you scared that marmot today. It wasn't very nice.
No, I was nice. I apologized to that marmot. I was very nice to him. I said, I'm sorry,
This is
Mr.
really
Marmot.
terrible audio.
Why are you covering your muzzle? You're trying to keep your muzzle warm? Why are you covering it?
We enjoyed having a slow day. The fast-changing Sierra weather was a reminder to always be prepared for different conditions. Chris is excited, but I'm nervous about going over Glen Pass tomorrow.
So the next day, we had planned to just hike over Glen Pass back to Kearsarge Lakes. Sounds easy, but my wife had a fair amount of anxiety from climbing over it before, so she was a little bit freaked to go back. The whole way over there, she was definitely like on edge. It was kind of freaking her out.
I don't know.
Along the way, we noticed an ice bridge, and we were very careful to go around that. So we started heading up, and Glen Pass had melted out significantly. There was still a fair amount of snow and ice to climb up, but it wasn't as bad as a couple days prior to that.
With all the exposed areas that hadn't been there before, we were able to do some bouldering to climb up the hillside toward the snowy areas, and that was one of my favorite parts of the whole trip.
We're halfway up Glen Pass, and we just did a bunch of boulder hopping, and that was really cool. We're about to continue up this little guy over here, and it's the more technical piece, so we'll be using ice axes and crampons, and it's going to be a lot of fun. This is the fun part for me. Not for Muzzy, but for me. I like this part.
We hit the snowy patches on the mountainside again, and just like before, I really focused on my technique and being careful and cautious and planting every single step. So it was ice axe, step, step, ice axe, step, step.
I was pretty impressed. My wife had actually improved quite a bit from her prior experience a few days before that.
I was really nervous still, but we took it slow. No meltdowns at the top of Glen Pass this time, so I'd consider that a win.
I think she was able to actually soak in the views more and look down on Rae Lakes where we were staying, and just kind of appreciate where we were. And it was nice to see her adapting and not being so freaked out about it.
It was amazing how much snow had melted out just in 2 days, and we were able to take switchbacks a lot of the way down. When we did hit the snow, we were really careful again. We met up with a hiker who had unfortunately slipped and glissaded down part of the mountain, and she was pretty shook up.
And I think that was a good wake-up call for us to be extra careful, cut in good steps, use your ice axe, make sure you're secure before pushing on.
I'm so relieved to be done with Glen Pass. I felt like I was sick for 2 days, going up and over it, the anticipation of coming back over it, and I'm just so glad to be done with it and back at Kearsarge Lakes. What I miss most being out here is definitely my kids.
We both love being parents, and it's hard to be away from them. But yeah, it's good for us to have alone time too. So we don't get enough of that these days. We both have pretty serious careers. We'll be out of here in a couple hours. I want tacos.
Pretty great once you hit those switchbacks, huh?
Yep, it's a fast descent. I want tacos.
I love the switchbacks. Those were
Tacos.
I was finally able to see Rae Lakes, one of Chris's favorite places in the whole world. He had made so many memories there over the years, but this time we were able to make new memories there together.
Do you want to go hiking someday?
Yeah. Mommy.
What did you think of Mommy and Daddy going hiking?
I missed you.
Oh, we missed you too.